All right, let's, when I came back after I was here with y'all and then went down there, I lost my voice for about a week, which was good, I guess. But did you hear about the Texas policeman? And this is supposed to be a true story. That's what they say anyway. And he was waiting outside the bar. He always knew he could get these people for drinking. And he'd wait outside the bar till they got in their cars, and then he'd pull them over. So this one guy, he's sitting out there one night, shortly before the bar is closed down. This guy comes out there, and I mean, he's staggering everywhere. And he can't even hardly look like he couldn't even hardly see. And so he come around and tried 4 or 5 cars before he found his. He opened the door, fell into the car, turned his windshield washers on, and it was dry night. Then he pulled his car up 6 inches. He backed it up 6 inches, and people were leaving all this time. And so this policeman's sitting there watching him, just waiting for him to pull out. All these other people were leaving, so in a minute the guy pulls out onto the street real slow, and he's going down the street, and of course the policeman pulls in behind him, pulls him over, gets out his breathalyzer test. He checked him, and lo and behold, there was not one sign of alcohol on the guy. And so so he said, there's got to be something wrong with my breathalyzer. I've got to take you in. He says, nothing wrong with your breathalyzer. He said, I'm the designated decoy tonight. So anyway, we went down to Lake Jackson, which is, it's past the center of the earth. I know it's a long way down there. You go to Houston, and then you travel about 80 miles out into the ocean, and that's what I say anyway. Yes. Oh, okay. Before we really get started, Ed Branham, y'all, the last time we were here, you took up a collection for this family down in East Texas, and he has a letter he wants to read to you because y'all were very generous in what you did. And so I'll let him read the letter. It's from the Republic of Texas, is one that went down to see the man, and Ed had quite an experience after all of them went. Ed was a person, and so what we're here for, as we are every time, is to learn who you are. We get off into a lot of other areas, but the ultimate goal in all of this is to learn who you are. When you learn who you are, you can take care of your problems yourself, because you've been taught all your life that you're something other than what you are. You're taught that you don't have rights. You're taught that you're free, and yet every time you travel down the street you get grabbed and tickets written. You wonder where your wealth is going, or your assets, and if you'll stop and think just a little bit, the biggest drain on the entire country is traffic tickets. Those are things that are created as debt by the corporations to take the wealth from the people. You see, in all of this scheme that was set up, the people never have owed 1 penny to anyone. The way the system is, it's a promise to pay. And when they set it up, they literally, and it's not just one document that go, it's a whole lot of documents that goes into setting this up. We use HJR 192, which has been amended. Don't ever take because they amend something that it does away with HJR 192. They can't do away with it. They can only amend it. And they go and they put it under another number. But it's just as viable. When all of this happened in 1933, people were, at that point, they were in trouble because of the bankers pulling all the money out of the system. But they at least were free, and they understood they were free. And all of a sudden, they called for all the gold. Now, when you take a country's gold, you take their law with it. They have no law, because they then rule the people through the gold. When they took our gold, we had nothing. And now they were going to train us to depend totally upon this thing called the federal corporation. But in the documents that were put out then, in order to do this, they had to give the people something for the gold. And so what they did was gave each one of us a preferred stock in the federal corporation. They had to give us a prepaid account with every corporation in this country. They had to give you freedom from taxation. But where is that freedom? See, they did all of this, and then they turned right around and they started teaching us to accept property taxes, teaching us to accept, and the way the property tax got started, they just started giving people, they bid on these jobs, these tax assessor collectors. They're not elected by the people. They bid on the jobs, and they came in and started sending out notices, you owe property taxes. And like everything else, they were very small, and so people started accepting them. They get to us because they, and when I say they, I'm talking about the federal corporation. I don't know what you're talking about when you say they is living in your house. And I try to tell people, it's only you living in the house. It's not they. But anyway, in doing this, they reversed everything they had promised. They had issued a birth certificate, took your title away from you, and entitled themselves then to be your representative. And that's exactly how it really happened. They took your title, you lost your title, and they entitled themselves then to represent you since you didn't have a title. Once you regain your title, you are the sovereign once again. There is nothing they can do once you regain your sovereignty. Now, there's a lot of people that have gone into court, and they have the court back down, and then they don't know what to do at that point. And then the judge comes back in and starts taking back over, and they give their title right back away again. They take your title on everything you got. When you register a car, they take title, they give you a certificate of title. They entitle themselves to your car. This is on everything. Your house is the same way. You give title back to those people. And so what we're here to learn is how do you get your title back. But anyway, in 1933, they set up this system, and it's called a promise to pay. Nothing has ever been paid since 1933. Everything, the only thing you can do is discharge. You cannot pay with money that has no value. You can only discharge, and that's simply a promise to pay. You look at that Federal Reserve note, it's simply a note. It's your promise to pay. When you hand that to somebody, it's your promise to pay. It has no value to it. So when we got into this, what they started doing then was taking our law away from us. Because it's by your law that you protect yourself. A sovereign is protected because he has a common law court to go to. And nobody in that court has any sway over anyone else. Everyone in that court is the same. And so what happened was that in 1938 they had the ruling. They started bringing in this thing called law merchants, that's what the Revolutionary War was fought over. They then, in 1938, they had a ruling of Erie Railroad versus Tompkins. And it simply said, there is no contract, there is no case. Then they came with the Administrative Procedures Act in 1946. 1973, they brought them both together. 1966, the UCC law was brought in, and it declared itself in there as being the supreme law of the land. Everyone thought, well, we have the Constitution. The Constitution was never your law. Never established anything. You cannot write your rights down on a piece of paper and expect to keep them. That's not where they're kept. Your rights are kept within yourself. Nobody can take those away, but you can sure give them away. And so what happened is they then brought this Administrative Procedures Act, which in 1973 was accepted by all of the states, and they set the courts, brought all the courts into one court. But that wasn't all they did. They took the plea of innocence, which was your plea and my plea, to go into court and be able to plead innocent. And then they had to prove that you intended to do something. But they took that plea away, and now all you can plea is guilty, not guilty, and nolo contendere. The worst of all those is the not guilty, because now you've got an impossible job. You've got to go into court and prove that you didn't do something, that you had no intent, that you didn't intend to run a red light. I don't know how you prove that, and it was impossible. They took the intent at that point, placed it with the complaint that they had against you, and they then started just in 73, you can see it if you go back in history. Plea bargaining started in earnest with all the attorneys, because the attorney knew that the defense attorney knew that he wasn't going to win. So they came up with a deal, because they're all brothers, among the lawyers, that they would plea bargain. Then they could come to you and get you 10 years instead of 20, and that way they earned their money. And so in 73 is when it really all went down on all of us. But we were sitting here because they started us off in the 50s were really good years. 50s, 60s, and then it started going downhill. But we were looking at this thing, man, all these new cars were driving around, all these new buildings and everything else, and we thought everything was great, and they were taking us down a little at a time. So when you look at all of this, how do they get your wealth? They get it through interest, which is usury, because you created the credit, and now they're going to charge you interest on your credit, and they do it through taxes. And you say, well, a traffic ticket isn't tax. A traffic ticket is a debt. All of them are debts. So what did it say in HJR 192? The government would pay your debts dollar for dollar. But we'll go through the traffic ticket here in a minute. Now, I gave you tonight the handout, and that will be about a 3 or 4 part situation we're going to get into, because you start learning how to put that commercial lien on these people and do it the right way. There's nothing anyone can do to you. There's nothing, no one can make you take it off. No one can do anything about it, because all law says you give people 3 notices. So we'll get into to this a little later, but to get into the traffic tickets. Number one, what we've talked about many times about the everything's in commerce. Can you look around now and understand that everything is in commerce? That everything you do is based on commerce. Every piece of paper you get from someone down at City Hall is an offer of contract. And that takes you right into this thing called the law merchants. And so the issue is to get you, because in commerce you cannot operate in commerce without a license. Who is the only one that gets licensed? We do. So what has to happen when a policeman pulls you over? He doesn't have a license to practice law, does he? No. So what he does, he gets yours. Give me your license. You see, it's as simple as that. You then hand him your license, you've given it to him, and now he can operate in commerce without being in violation of the practice of law without a license. This is why tickets are so hard to get rid of. because you have given them license to practice law, they write you the ticket, and then you're going into the court and saying, what's going on? You see, you gave them the license to do it. You never have to give, and this is the main thing you need to learn, is quit giving them license to practice law. That is called a commercial crime. That's the reason attorneys, you can tell them one time and they'll buzz off. I've had people many times go into court and fire the prosecuting attorney. He just sits down. He can't say anymore. Now he's in violation of the UCC, which is what they're operating with. UCC law is simply codified law merchants. And so this is how they strangle us, and this is how they continue to get after us. This is going all over the country. It's like wildfire. It's not just here. At the meeting in Lake Jackson, we had people from 5 different states that come in. I look at it as wakening people up, that they're finally starting to understand. You talk to people who think they know a lot about the law. They know maybe some about their law. But do you ever think they're going to let you use their law against them? That law does not apply to you. Why do you keep arguing with them about it? You know, and so we need to learn, and once we learn who we are, then you can fight it from the standpoint that number one, I'm a sovereign. And how do we do that? You simply, by what I gave you the last 2 meetings, is that equality under the law is mandatory. Equality under the law is paramount and mandatory by law. I, so-and-so, am a titled sovereign, and I am competent to handle my own affairs. At that point, you gain your title back, because that statement levels the field, and it allows you at that point to once again declare that I am one of we the people. And this is where we're getting beat up, is we've quit being one of we the people, and we've been taught to be labeled. I hear people all the time starting, old age groups. So all the old people will be the same. Nobody's got to be different. No one can be different. And that's really idiocy, because each one of us are different. Each one of us have our own character. Now, I don't care what you are, you have your own unique character. You're like snowflakes. There's not a one of you alike. And I hope I never run into the guys like me. And I'm sure you don't want to either. You have to look at him in the mirror every morning, so you don't want to run into him out on the street. But you are unique in yourself, and this is the reason that when you were born, you're given the same rights as everyone else. So you're born, and immediately they say, your mother and father says, well, you can't do this, you can't do that. And you said, well, what can I do? Well, you can only do this on Sunday, you can only do this on Monday. They won't allow you to do this on Tuesday. And before long, you've got so many rules and regulations, you just go out and start doing things, and then they start fining you for them. But you see, we were created to be free. Everyone is. That's why man kept going all over the earth, trying to find somewhere he could sit down and nobody would come and bother him. But in this country, every time someone branched out and went up on the mountains, there was a federal corporation, the United States, sitting there waiting on him with the rules and regulations of how he could set his house up. And so they pulled us into this thing and started telling us, we will take care of you. Well, I ask you a question. Where is the policeman when somebody has a gun stuck in your back? Where is any of them? So who's going to take care of who? It's you that has to take care of yourself. Now, if someone is there, they can help you if you're into some kind of trouble, but they even get you for that. Now, you help somebody and you beat the guy down, maybe you shoot him, you get into a gunfight with him, and he's trying to shoot you, and all of a sudden you're the bad guy. And so this is what it's gotten into. And so when a man is free, when you really internalize your freedom, I guarantee you're going to look at everybody else you're going to say, you know, he's not hurting anyone. I don't care what he's doing. You know, he's if I can help him, I will. If he falls off drunk into the ditch, then I'll help pull him out. But otherwise, if I want to go fishing on Sunday, I go fishing on Sunday. And that's a simple way to put it. But you come to the point that you let everyone be who they are. Because I don't want to take away anyone's freedom. I don't want to take anyone's, and I don't. It really bothers me for someone to come up and tell me, you know, boy, this and this and this, you know, and I say, no, this isn't about me. It's about you. I know who I am, and I'm trying to get you to understand who you are. And this is what we need to do. And you need to start telling your neighbors, this is who you are. You're not fighting anybody but yourself. When you think about it, we're the one that's doing all this stuff to ourselves. Are you not? I mean, because we're ignorant of what was going on. I told that to a man on an email, and I think he's feels like he's a real hotshot lawyer or something. And I told him, I said, you're ignorant. Well, he got offended. And I said, I'm not talking about you as a person been total ignorant. I said, all of us are ignorant in this world about some things. I sure don't know everything, and I don't think you do either. I said, there's only one person that I know of that knows everything. And I said, he's always teaching me that you don't know nothing. And so you see, it's the ignorance on our part that it's not that you're stupid. That's not what I'm saying. Ignorance is just you have no knowledge of what's going on. And when I say we're ignorant in all this, it's not a thing on your character. I guarantee you that there's a lot of things about life that y'all know that I have no clue about what's going on. But I do know that you're created free, and that you need to start internalizing this into yourself. But the traffic ticket is that simple, is that they've convinced us that give me your license, and now you've given it to them, and they do the same thing to you in court. What's your name? You give me your name. Once you give your name, they proceed. And so we've told you of many instances where they go in, and when we first started, we'd say, the judge would say, what's your name? We'd say, who wants to know? And he'd say, I do. Well, who are you? And you'd say, well, and he would give his name, and he'd say, well, do you have a claim against me? See, the difference in a charge and a claim is they cannot put a claim on a sovereign. Only a sovereign can put a claim on a sovereign. What they do is they issue a complaint against you. You're the one that turns it into a criminal action by what you say. You see, everything you say can and will be held against you in a court of law. They don't do a thing that you don't tell them to do. Why? Because we're like magpies. We think everybody in the world wants to hear our story. You don't understand what that guy was doing when I did. Well, what were you doing? Well, I was doing this, 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 and this, see? And your answer to them should be, you know, what first? See? You don't say a word. Let them do all the talking. They cannot try you unless they have your word that you did something. And that is, if you don't ever believe anything I'm saying, you are charged with something, or you have a complaint ruled against you. It's not a charge until you talk. He cannot charge you until you talk. And you start being a magpie, at that point, then they charge you. You charge yourself. You see, the strange thing about the court, if you ever win in that court, you can immediately file a charge on the prosecuting attorney and take his bond, and he'll never practice again. You wonder why those district attorneys fight so hard when it comes and they find out they got about 20% of the people in prison never did what they convicted them of. A lot of the people on death row are that way. And yet all of a sudden they'll have 50 people come forward and say, he didn't do it. And have you ever seen one of those district attorneys say, well, we're sorry we convicted the wrong man? Never seen one of them, have you? You know why? Because he then will get charged and his bond taken away from him. This is what it's all about, because you as a sovereign, they have to bond you when you come in there. They have to be bonded. And if they lose, they have to forfeit their bond because they've made a false charge against you. So in all of this, we have to understand who we are and quit talking so much. When they ask you to fill out interrogatories, if you get that far into the thing, they've drug you in. Fill out these interrogatories. The judge will get you if you don't. He'll throw you into the cell for contempt. And you simply write across it, I cannot make a legal determination about what you're asking. And write it in your name first. And that is the only answer you can give that you will not get in trouble, because they cannot require legal determination. And so if you come to the interrogatories, depositions, same thing. Just write never blank. Cannot make a legal determination about what you're asking. And they cannot make you do it. Now they don't have a case to use against you. They'll tell you in the interrogatories, these interrogatories, about 14 or 15 down, says these interrogatories will be used as facts of your case. You do understand that? Yes. And you never understand that's what they're doing. You're convicting your own self. So what they've done is taken the nature of man, and his nature is to want to tell his story. I didn't do it because this, and this. And he'll deny he did anything. But the best denial always is to say nothing. And so, and that's a true story about the little black man that got stopped and they looked in his trunk. He had a trunk load of furs. Well, he said, where'd you get these furs? What furs? This went on the whole for about 30 minutes, he said, and then they hauled him in before the judge, and the judge says, well, you got him here for? He says, he has a truckload of furs out there and he won't tell us where he got them. The judge says, where'd you get the furs? He said, what furs? You see, he wasn't saying nothing, and about 30 minutes later, the judge says, you got to turn him loose and give him his keys. Well, why? He said, because he don't have any furs in that car. You see, he had to admit the furs were there. That is your answer in all of this, is just quit talking so much. See, people think they're going to go lie to them. You get these guys and they take you in the room and they say, now, I'm your friend. Now, you can trust me. We're not, anything you say is just between you and I. And they got 16 microphones, tape recorders, and everything else. And so the people just start telling everything.